Well, so after that, and with all of these new revelations about Chinese interference in the elections, like is the Canadian public responding to it? Do they care? This is taking fire then.
Yeah, it's been building. I remember, there's kind of a small town in Canada of journalists who cover China. And I only do so sort of sideways because, my beat is kind of international human rights, foreign policy. So there's stuff happening in Syria, spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and then there's Ukraine, and there's all this other stuff going on. But it's a small town. You've got Joanna Shu and Jeremy Nuttall at the Toronto Star. You've got Steve Chase and Bob Fife at the Globe and Mail. You've got Sam Cooper and Stu Bell at Global and CTV. You've got me and Tom Blackwell at the National Post Media. Doug Kwan from time to time. That's basically it.
Wait, so there's fewer than a dozen journalists in all of Canada who are covering China on any kind of regular basis?
Yes.
I mean, Canada's a small country, but it's not that small. It seems like
considering
something's
the
wrong
threat,
here.
There should maybe be more people getting on that.
Yeah. And I think, but anyway, we had a conversation. I guess it was maybe Steve, Jeremy, and me. I don't know who else was in. A couple of years ago, we said, well, our job here is done. Like stuff that I would write that people would say, oh, Glavin, you're kind of edgy there, but, sounding a little radical maybe. Within months, it would be the editorial position of the Gray Lady, the editorial board of the Globe and Mail. We looked around and we saw, I'm normal. I am totally normal. My views, I hold no heterodox views about this at all. 87% of Canadians hold opinions about this stuff that I hold about this stuff. I'm grossed out about Beijing's cruelty and sadism in Hong Kong and in Xinjiang. So are Canadians. And recently, the polls on the election stuff, most Canadians say, doesn't look like our government is standing up to China. Looks like Beijing interfered in our elections. Yep.
Do you think there will be accountability for Trudeau and the Liberal Party?
Believe it or not, I don't think so. He's a Teflon guy, survives a lot. There have been all of these calls for a public inquiry under the Inquiries Act. And one thing I noticed is that his former senior advisor, he's sort of this Rasputin character, Gerald Butts, who, do you know this guy? You know about this guy?
No.
I actually think we covered him once, but only because he had a fight with Jordan Peterson on Twitter or something like that. And it was one of the things that came up when Jordan Peterson was getting, he had to get reevaluated or trained on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember the name Gerald Butts.
I mean, Gerald is a funny name.
Gerald and I used to be quite chummy, actually. He's sort of Trudeau's Rasputin. What's his name? What's that guy? Trump had him. Steve Bannon. Yeah. Only Butts was tight with Trudeau. They went to school together. They planned, Trudeau's political trajectory together. He had to resign in this unbelievable scandal that Trudeau survived because he's got Teflon all over him. And Butts sort of intervened. He's gone to the Eurasia Group. And he said, there should be a public inquiry, but it should be this sort of broad-based inquiry into, the new phenomenon of governments that interfere in through digital technologies. And, he's always banging on about Hungary, which he should. I mean, who likes, those guys? But basically it was like, oh, okay. So basically change the subject and bury the story, in other words, right?
Oh, that's actually brilliant. So he's basically saying, no, it's actually a much larger issue and we should investigate the larger issue. But in doing so, the really important part, which is the CCP's interference, gets completely buried.
And that's what's happened this week. What happened this week at the House Affairs and Procedures Committee is the New Democratic Party put forward a motion. And then the NDP, as I say, sort of like they're the tail wagged by the Liberal dog. They're supporting Trudeau in a minority government situation. An NDP motion that was put forward by Peter Julian, the NDP, the New Democrat on the committee, who he was just banging on about foreign interference in the context of the truckers' protest, the Trump election in 2016, Brexit, anti-vax conspiracy theories. The motion didn't even mention China, the original motion.
Right, but none of those things he mentioned were specifically foreign interference, right? I mean, I guess the Trump thing, people associate it with that, but I believe that's been discounted at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he was sort of representing this as foreign interference.
Right, that doesn't seem accurate.
Well, no, it isn't. I mean, it's mainly, being a kind of an old style hippie New Democrat, he's concerned mainly about the influence in Canada of the beastly Americans.
Oh, I mean, we are kind of beastly. That's true.
So anyway, there was a big row, and there was a lot of filibustering in the committee and amendments and fighting back and forth. And the Conservatives managed to get a little bit of a win that the resolution would, that the inquiry would look into the harassment and intimidation of diaspora communities in Canada. So, okay. But basically, it's a non-binding motion to submit what would be a non-binding resolution in the House of Commons for this sort of open-ended think piece inquiry that'll deal with, foreign interference and all its strange mutations and variety. So yeah, I think he may actually survive this. The committee will continue its work, and I think the CSIS, I think the intelligence agencies will still try to keep the public apprised of what's really going on. I also think there's a couple of things that's important, is that it's only since the election of Joe Biden that Trudeau has started to behave as though he actually were a NATO country. I mean, he's basically Erdogan. He's, Turkey, in that he wants to have it both ways. And that's changed. That's changed. I think the Biden administration has already boxed his ears. Janet Yellen, I think, has really boxed his ears. I mean, from the earliest days of the Obama administration, even before Trudeau was elected, the State Department was saying, look, you guys, this Huawei stuff, you want to stay away from those guys. No good will come of it. And we thought we were clever. When the Americans were making sure that even, volunteer fire departments in Montana couldn't have Huawei gear, we were setting up Huawei campuses in the universities and taking all this money. And I remember Martin Cauchon, who's a former Liberal cabinet minister, said quite explicitly when one of these Huawei campuses was being opened up on the outskirts of Ottawa, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So, it took Biden's election, I think, for the penny to drop a little bit around Team Trudeau. We got on board with the rest of the Five Eyes partners and said, yeah, we're going to make sure that Huawei is not going to come into our core 5G. We've been excluded from a number of American intelligence and economic strategic Indo-Pacific stuff because we basically can't be trusted.